When you're the black sheep of a narcissistic family, your family does not emotionally support you, especially in distressing situations when you need emotional support the most. Your family will not give it to you. When you go through difficult situations, your family will shrug it off, act like it's nothing, act like it's not that important, invalidate your feelings, and not understand why you would be upset or frustrated or angry about a certain thing. And they don't even offer you any type of emotional support. They don't console you, they don't hug you, they don't say encouraging things to uplift your spirit and make you feel better, to say, hey, it's okay, it's going to be all right. Nothing to uplift you in your moments of need. And as a scapegoat child, what this does is it makes you feel even more lonely, because to be surrounded by people that make you feel alone is a heartbreaking situation. And for you to be going through a current distressing, difficult situation, you would think that if you were to have all of this family around you, that one person from your family would make you feel better, would do something to soothe you or console you. But when none of them do this, it's a very eye-opening experience for the scapegoat child to realize that their family does not really care for them. They don't like them. They don't love them. They don't care for them. They don't care about their emotional well-being. They don't care about when the child is upset or frustrated or dealing with the difficult situations. They actually enjoy when the scapegoat is going through difficult situations. The narcissistic family is so fake that they fake being there, fake support their scapegoat child or sibling, that when the moment comes for them to actually give that support, they just can't fake it anymore. They'd rather just not give it to you altogether than to put forth any extra effort to show that they care when they really don't. For example, at my high school graduation, there was a mistake that was made where I went to a private school, and there was a mistake that was made where a last payment was late. But by the time that my graduation ceremony rolled around, all of the payments had been made. Apparently, my mother double checked to make sure that I was going to receive my diploma, and they said someone told her that in the office told her that I would receive my diploma at graduation, but the opposite happened. So at graduation, what happens is when you walk across the stage and they call your name, you receive your envelope. Then at the very end of the ceremony, all of the graduates go into this back room, and we go and we grab our diplomas from the back room. Then we can put it in our envelope. They hold this because they tell parents not to cheer, not to applaud, because if your parents make any noise when your name is being called, they will refuse to give you your diploma. So when my name was called, none of my family made any noise, so I am assuming that I am getting my diploma when I get to the back. By the time I get to the back, and they split you up in alphabetical order, so I go into the room with my last name, and when I give them my last name and I see that my name is not there, I'm instantly starting to worry what's going on. And then one of the faculty members tells me, oh, honey, you still owe the school money. You have to come back to school tomorrow to get your diploma. When this happened, I was completely blindsided. I was mortified. I was humiliated. I was embarrassed. It's just, this happened in front of my friends, in front of people that I knew, having to see that I was not given my diploma, although everyone else was. What this did was it ruined the moment for me. It ruined my graduation night. To go to the back and feel with all of this joy of graduating high school, and then for the rug to be pulled from under me like that was devastating. And when I went back to school the next day, they told me it was a big mistake on their part, that all of the money was sent in. I was supposed to get my diploma that night on graduation, but they were so sorry that they made a mistake, and they're sorry. And they gave me my diploma the next day. However, None of their sorries could rectify the situation. None of them could fix my hurt feelings. The damage was already done. They ruined my graduation night. They ruined the moment for me. It's a moment in my childhood I can never get back. And I realize now, all these years later, I deserved so much better, but my high school failed me. But that's one thing. But what to add insult to injury, what made the situation so even more difficult was the lack of emotional support that I did not receive that night when I should have. When I came back to my family and I was so frustrated and upset that I had these heels on, and I took my heels and I sat down right behind where my family was, and I just threw my heels. I just threw the shoes down underneath the seat. And they all turned around and looked at me and looked all confused. And when they asked, and they didn't even ask what was wrong. And they all kind of like looked confused, and I looked around at each other, and everyone could see that I'm frustrated, but no one's asking what's wrong. So finally I finally tell them like they don't have my diploma. That's why I'm upset. And the rest of my family just looks at each other, look at me, and then they shrug their shoulders like, so, and okay, like that's not a big deal. Who cares? It doesn't matter. But like to them, it wasn't that big of a deal. But to me, it was a big deal. It was a big deal because if every other student in that graduating class received their diploma on their graduation night and they're able to enjoy their moment, why can't I? Why am I always having to get the short end of the stick? Why is it that I always have to be the one to sacrifice? Why is it that when a situation happens and someone has to sacrifice, why is it always me being the one to sacrifice? It was a very difficult moment for me. My whole high school, my entire senior year, I was just severely depressed, just didn't have, all of high school, it was not a very enjoyable time. And then for my high school career to end like that, to end on such a sour, poor note, was just the last straw that broke the camel's back for me. And this is something that honestly took me a very long time to recover from because I did not have family that emotionally supported me in that moment. So that night I had to suppress so much anger, so much frustration, so much grief, and just shove it down and not deal with it because I was not able to fully express my emotions the day of. Which is why all these years later, I'm giving myself my voice and sharing my story, sharing my testimony, and letting this off my chest to let people know that domestic violence is not always about a person getting physically hit or beat. Domestic violence also comes from the abandonment and neglect and lack of emotional support from family members. Especially when the child needs it, especially when the child is going through a distressing situation where they need their family. Now, what happened with my school, with my high school, and what they did, that was one thing. Of course, that ruined my graduation. It ruined the moment for me. And it is what it is. However, if I would have came back to my family and they would have, comforted me, consoled me, gave me a hug, told me it was okay, and gave me something to uplift my spirit instead of having me deal with all of that emotion on my own, it would have been less severe. Just knowing that I had family that backed me up and had my back and made me feel better, I wouldn't have felt as bad on that day. But on my high school graduation night, it's a night I will never forget because I was done wrong because of a dumb mistake with my school, all because of money, because they would rather put money over empathy for a child. And then to know that my family has shown me with their actions and with their energy that they don't love me, they don't like me, they don't care for me, and this is how they treat me when I'm going through a difficult situation. It was a very rude awakening for me. It was a very eye-opening experience, and a lot that the 17-year-old version of me has gone through. And teenage me deserved so much better than that.